Hi everyone, Elliott Boots here. I'm here today to talk to you about the Reds clutch, Quattro Clutch. I mentioned I'd be speaking about it in a previous video, so I've got the clutch laid out, and the next step I'll start showing you how to assemble it. Okay, to start, obviously we have the flywheel, Quattro Clutch, so it means 4 shoes. 4 pins for the shoes to sit on. I have 2 aluminum shoes and 2 plastic carbon shoes, 4 springs, the plate, and this here is the new tool which helps you assemble the clutch, which I'll show you in a moment. So if we start by putting the spring in the clutch, like this. Now I tend to run 2 aluminum and 2 carbon. You want to run opposite sides, so you have your aluminum opposite and then you'll have the carbon opposite. I put these in. You want to make sure the spring sits inside the groove of the shoe. You don't want it hanging out like this. It won't be right. It'll be rubbing on the clutch bell and it's not what you want. The carbon on, so one more, put this on here, last one. Okay, so now they're all on, you want to make sure all the springs are in the grooves correctly, like so, and then you've got your plate on the front plate, and we put this on, and you'll see there's 4 little grooves here for the springs to sit in. What I like to do, easiest way for me, you'll feel that the springs sit in there at an angle, and when you look down you'll be able to see. So that's the starting point. You can use the tool here. You'll see the cutout for the plate. So it's you've got the directions imprinted on this side. So you get your position there like so. What you want to do is you want to twist anti-clockwise in the direction of the arrow, and you twist round until you can see. I like it in the L shape. So once you've spun round, push it round to the L shape. L and H, low grip, high grip. Now the pins are located. It's just a case of just pushing down. It may not sit all the way properly, but once you put the nut onto the crankshaft, it holds it in place. You have the cone, which will obviously sit on the back of the flywheel. They tend to always come on the engines. Make sure if you're going to use the Reds clutch, make sure you use the Reds cone as well, because they're all slightly different sizes. And it might not sit properly if you have a different manufacturer's cone on there. So if you imagine now the cone being on the crankshaft, now the clutch is on the crankshaft, and then you will wind the nut on, and by winding this on it will close the slight gap you've got there, and it will be in the correct position. You want to make sure this is pretty tight. If you're going into a final, or you don't want to run any risks, you can possibly just put a little bit of Loctite on the thread, which helps, peace of mind. I tend to just make sure they're very, very tight. I hold the flywheel with a pair of grips. I know in other clutches you can actually have the tool, but I don't like it. You can put pressure on the pins, but with this one obviously you can't do that. So I get a big pair of grips. I hold onto it here, and I crank the nut up nice and tight. And yeah, basically once you've done that, put the clutch bell on, the bearings on, make sure you've got a little bit of play on the clutch bell, get your meshing right on the car. With the Reds clutch bell, I like to mesh it a little bit tight to begin with, and then after it's about 10 minutes on the track it breaks in very nicely, and you'll be good to go. I'll show you now quickly, if you like, for me to take the springs off, show you a quick repair. I like to use a flat-headed screwdriver. If you just get under the gap there, you just work your way round. Comes off like so. Once you've got a big enough gap to be able to use your fingers to get it out, like so. Comes off as easy as that. You spin these out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, in that first part of the video, I showed you using the clutch tool here. It's not a necessary item. It depends if it makes your life easier, or you like another little gizmo in the toolbox. Looks pretty cool. But I'm going to show you now just using the hands. Either way works out the same. So if we go ahead and do the same again by putting the shoes on. Like I said earlier, I run 2 aluminum, 2 carbon. And I always run, obviously, oppositely. Third one. Three. And now the last one. You make sure, like I said, make sure the springs are in the groove properly. Now you've got your front plate here. Like I said, L and H, I always run it in the L pretty much in all conditions. I like the feeling best. So get them springs in the groove, spin it round, there we go. And then all it takes, just spin it round with your fingers till you come round to the L position. And then I like to just push it down, like so. And that's it. You can always go round with a screwdriver if you like. You can flick the shoes, make sure they've got a nice spring, make sure the springs aren't bound up or anything. See the cone on the back, come on the Reds engine always. Like I say, make sure it's the Reds cone with the Quattro Clutch. Always make sure, don't use another manufacturer's cone, it might be slightly different. So imagine the crankshaft going through, the nut on the front, tighten that up and that will compress the front plate down. So don't worry if there's a tiny little gap there you're a bit worried about, because once the nut goes on, it will bring that in and it will sit properly. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I forgot to mention earlier that Reds, we have the 32mm, which I tend to use normally, but also 34mm, so obviously being a little bit bigger. You can see there, it's not a big difference. Some manufacturers, some drivers prefer different sizes, so Reds have made that to accommodate everyone. But basically that's it. I hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, some things look a bit more difficult than they really are. You can see how easily it comes apart and goes together. So yeah, in the next video I'll be showing you my race ready engines, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks very much.